Every time one of these mini DLC sets release, like Aftermath or more recently Assassin's Creed, it screams to me that the message should be heard loud and clear. Regular fans that spend their hard-earned money on Magic the Gathering, like you and I, don't get into these products. There's too many problems with them. There's too much that we cannot do. But we have to take a step back and realize that Wizards of the Coast is often one to do, well, not exactly what we want them to do. So I want to have a little fun and ask the question, based on the numbers that we have seen and more than 20 years experience in the trading card space, do I think that Wizards of the Coast is going to print more sets like this, or are they finally done with the Aftermath epilogue disaster? This one's gonna be kind of fun, and I can't wait to put my tinfoil hat on. All right, let's get into it. As someone who, at their very core, is just a Magic the Gathering fan, it's hard for me to understand why Wizards of the Coast would ever go back to the epilogue Beyond Booster DLC well when it has already failed twice over. But I'm also no stranger to the game, as they say. I've been around Magic the Gathering for the better part of 20 years, and I know that Wizards of the Coast often doesn't do not only what we like them to do, but what we think they would do. So I want to take a step back from my fandom of my I just don't like these, they should stop doing them, and really analyze and think, would Wizards of the Coast ever do this? And is there a way to make this mini injectable DLC style product work? And to do that, it's going to be a longer conversation. We're going to use some data that we scrape off of TCG Player, where we collect every single sold listing of sealed product. And if you like content like this, make sure you hit that sub button. We just pressed 8,800 and we're on to 9K. So every single click helps. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. But these DLC releases, these little mini injectable products, have a lot of faults. I've gone over them in video after video at this point on this channel, but I'll lay out a couple just very quickly. They're not playable. You can't go to your game store and play them, and spoiler alert, Magic the Gathering fans like to play the game. Furthermore, when we crack packs, which yes, I know the buy singles army is out there, and yes, I am one to buy singles. I'm going to do a video this month talking about all the singles that I have bought, and they're not expensive ones. They're just things that I like, but I understand that army doesn't, understand people crack packs, but we do. But the pack cracking experience for these DLC sets is, well, it's extremely subpar. On one hand, you can get most of the cards through just a couple boxes, but the cards aren't super coveted. There's nothing very exciting to hit when you get there, and that money tier, things I've talked about for over 2 years now, the $5 to $8 range where you're paying for a pack based on a single card that you might get, is very, very thin in both of these products. Couple that with the fact that, well, there's not really anything coveted or insane to collect out of them, even though they added serialized cards to Assassin's Creed. It hasn't really seemed to drive purchase of the product that much. It just seems to be like not a good reason to crack these packs either. But there's got to be something, right? And we do see a high level of playability in some of the cards. March of the Machine Aftermath has a ton of commander cards that are highly playable and fun to sit around with your pod and jam onto the table, and it does have Nissa, the card that has broken a couple formats and gone on to be an all-star in a couple archetypes, and is required in some of the best standard decks at the moment. I think there's even a Pioneer deck or two in Modern that slams a Nissa down every once in a while. But after this, there's not much playability, and we see that with Assassin's Creed, the straight-to-Modern product that, well, it's not really going to have that much of an impact on Modern. And while yes, you'll pick and choose some commander cards here and there from within the product, it's not really going to do much to shake up the format or drive the sale of the product. And with all this kind of out on the table, with all of our cards being shown, if you will, it's safe to say these sets have not landed in a way that, Wizards of the Coast probably thought they would upon inception. And I'm just going to kind of mention, I believe that these sets work well in a digital technology-based arena. If you look at Magic the Gathering Arena, you look at MTGO, shaking up the format, shaking up standard on that platform every once in a while is probably really good. I mean, think of it, the set drops, you can play hundreds of standard games in a short amount of time, and the more games you play, the more you're gonna grind, the more you're gonna kind of get over the format, over the decks you're playing, and over the cards you yourself are shuffling up each and every round. And having a couple cards to inject here or there, shift things, change things up, you know, it's not necessarily the worst idea. I see where they're coming from. But conversely, you put these formats in paper, you play paper Magic the Gathering with your friends, and there's not too much incentive to change this quickly. Listen, Magic the Gathering is in one of the fastest release cycles I have ever experienced in the space of TCGs. Heck, I'll go ahead and call it, it is by far the fastest release cycle in TCGs. We are getting a new product what feels like every single month. And speaking more specifically about Assassin's Creed, when we have a new standard product, a new straight to modern product, a new standard product, all of those cards are legal in modern. They're meant to be playable in that format, and you can shake things up if you so choose. So if you wanted to really stretch your, modern muscles, or even your standard muscles, as we are getting more and more sets a year and they are lasting longer, we're also getting Magic the Gathering Foundations. A video about that will be linked here. It does seem like we don't need the injection of these releases. We can have a lot of fun with our paper cards. And we think further and a little bit deeper past the standard and the modern and the 60 card formats, and we realize, well, Commander is kind of that for fun arena anyway, and with getting a new set every single month, there's always something more fun to explore. There's always a new strategy, a new commander, a new archetype to try, since every set seems to have its own keyword now. So we don't really feel the need to be like, oh hey, we really need something to shake up modern, we need something to shake up standard, we need something to shake up commander. That is something that as a community we don't necessarily desire. So without highly playable cards that we just need because we're so sick of the other stuff, and without a pack-a-cracking experience that is something that keeps us coming back to the well, looking at something like Lord of the Rings, Outlaws of Thunder Junction, heck, Lost Caverns of Ixalan, people are still cracking those packs just to chase down some of the goodies inside. These sets really seem to fall flat, and in my opinion, Wizards of the Coast should be done with these products, looking at all of the evidence, the sell-through rate, and now even the value of the boxes. Although Assassin's Creed, I don't expect to go too much lower. We're not going to have the Amazon dump that we had for Aftermath. I'm going to kind of see some balancing here, so stay tuned. We'll do a market video. I think this week we'll do a market video on Assassin's Creed, but it doesn't really make much sense to have these products in the ecosystem to continue printing them. But that's not the question. The question isn't, does it make sense for us for them to keep printing them? Is it, will Wizards of the Coast keep doing it? And I think we are going to see one more of these sets printed. But hold on, boo-boo, hold the phone, I'm not done yet. I don't think we're gonna see it in the traditional epilogue, booster, aftermath Assassin's Creed style. I think we're looking more at something like Outlaws of Thunder Junction. And if we remember, Outlaws of Thunder Junction had an epilogue aftermath style set planned for its release to come out shortly after Outlaws of Thunder Junction hit the community. We're going to get another separate mini sub-release, and the cards were then kind of bundled together and put into the product. I believe it was called The Big Score, and it was just left all in the same box. It led to this weirdness with Outlaws of Thunder Junction where you have 7 different subsets inside of a single box. It's kind of a wild, wild west of Magic the Gathering cards, if you will. And while I expect to see at least one more of these, and I'm about to explain why, I expect it to be of that internal Big Score Outlaws of Thunder Junction style release. And the reason I expect one more of these is not because Wizards of the Coast hates you and doesn't listen to your feedback. No, I think Outlaws of Thunder Junction shows they do a pretty good job of listening to your feedback. But I believe with a company that gives us sets planned out a year, 2 years, and 3 years into the future, it would be extremely difficult for them to pivot off of having this planned already. You can tell me a story where they already have one of these planned for the future, and it's going to find its way shoehorned into a booster box somewhere. And Assassin's Creed, I believe, would have been this for Modern Horizons 3, but my under-the-table tinfoil hat super sneaky brain tells me it was probably an IP deal. Assassin's Creed was like, no, we agreed to be our own standalone product. We're going to be our own standalone product. And little did they know, their own standalone product would have been better off shoved into Modern Horizons 3 because those sales are freaking booming. Modern Horizons 3 is so good. Set of the year, it's not even close. But I want to expand on this further, and I know that we, may see one more of these. I want to know from you, do you think we're going to see one more? Do you not? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? I want to talk really briefly at the end of this video. If you made it this far, by the way, you win, because this is the real juicy topic that I really wanted to discuss today, and I'll probably do a whole nother video about this, is should Wizards of the Coast print these products that we deem are failing or not good or we don't take to right away? And in this specific instance, should they continue doing these small mini DLC releases? And the answer is a bit complicated. In the world of Magic the Gathering that we live in right now, today, no. They don't make sense. We talked about all the reasons, everything they don't do well, and the things that they do well are overshadowed by regular monthly releases that do what they do just a lot better. If you can follow along with that jumble of a sentence. Listen, I don't script things here. But if Wizards of the Coast were to pivot its model even slightly, where more of the releases for the year are direct to Commander releases, they maybe cut off one standard set a year with Standard's longevity and the release of Foundations. If they scale back the release cycle and imagine a world where Magic the Gathering is not released on a monthly basis, these small injectable DLC sets would be kind of cool. They would be really, really, affordable, presumably, looking at something like Aftermath, maybe not looking at the IP craze of Assassin's Creed, although the Beyond boosters really come down to be quite affordable. But it'd be nice to get some injection into these formats and get some brand new cards to sit around and play with and try out every once in a while. The problem is we already get that with every single Magic the Gathering release. It's happening what feels like monthly. It's insane. Wizards of the Coast came up with this idea. It's a really cool idea. It's actually proven to work in the video game and tech industry, this DLC model, but they just did it after they already saturated us with a ton of releases. We don't need full-fledged releases and then mini releases to fill the gaps that we don't have. It just does not make sense. It does not make sense. That's my take on these Beyond Booster releases. The really hot takeaway here is I think there's going to be one more. You got to look out for that. Let me know in the comment section below if you agree with me. If you're still here, again, hit that sub button and like the video. If you've never shared a Hometown TCG video, there's never been a better time than right now. Share this on some social media forum and find out if your friends agree with me or not. Thank you so much for hanging out today. Until next time, you guys know me. My name is Josh, and we'll see you around. And check out this video that I linked over here.